right? So first we should know that what is the leukemia and what is the lymphoma, right? So first we should understand what is the meaning of these things, because these terms are nearly similar to each other, right? So leukemia means, lymphoma means, right? So what is this? These are the tumor of, in simple words I'm telling you, these are the tumor of WBCs, right? Tumor of WBCs. So tumor of WBCs, when they are involving, right? They're involving on, right? Clear? Right. Now,
रिदम है, रिदम है, रिदम है, मुश्किल नहीं है.
Is it a true statement? Leukemia, lymphoma में हो सकता है, lymphoma leukemia में हो सकता है. Is it a true statement? Yes. Always remember, it's a simple rule of metastasis, right? It's a simple rule of metastasis. Whenever tumor load is more here, where they will migrate to the organs, right? Whenever tumor load is more in the organ or lymph node, means lymphoma, where they will migrate to the peripheral blood and to the lymph node. So it is a true statement we'll be writing, right? So leukemia may have lymphoma, lymphoma may have leukemia, right? So I understood. So in simple words, I will write acute lymphoma may have. Suppose it is also true, right? So this was the statement in one of the AIMS exam, right? Leukemia may have lymphoma and vice versa, right? So clear. So now the next question is, at present, what classification we are following? At present, what classification we are following? WHO. Very good. So now you have to remember, at present we are following WHO classification, right? So which classification we are following? WHO classification. What WHO classification says that we have to divide lymphoma, leukemia into two broader groups: Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's, right? Out of these two is usually nodal. Nodal means lymph node involvement will be commonly seen in the Hodgkin's lymphoma, whereas non-Hodgkin's lymphomas are usually extranodal. Lymph node involvement will be rare. So that is why I am writing extranodal. Mean to say that organs will be commonly affected rather than involving the lymph node, right? So clear. So here it is extranodal, here it is nodal, right? Now, the lymph node involvement in the Hodgkin's lymphoma is a characteristic. What is that characteristic involvement? They will be involving lymph node in the Hodgkin's lymphoma in a stepwise manner, and in contiguity. Stepwise and in contiguity. So what does that means? So I'll give you one example. Stepwise means they're not going to directly involve the abdominal lymph node. Stepwise means first they will involve cervical lymph node, then they will come to the axillary lymph node, then they will be going to the mediastinal lymph node, and then they will be going to the abdominal lymph node. So now you can see this. This is what I was telling you. They will be involving them in a stepwise manner. Cervical, then axillary, then mediastinal, then abdominal, right? So now you understood. This is how you have to understand. This is the axillary, this is the mediastinal, and this is the abdominal. Clear? I'm coming to one. I have not told you about the contiguity. This is called stepwise. So first stepwise, first group of the lymph node, second group of the lymph node, third group of the lymph node, and finally fourth group of the lymph node. So it is called stepwise. Now we have to understand what is the meaning of contiguity. What is the meaning of contiguity? Contiguity means now you are seeing four lymph nodes. Suppose I'm showing you 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4 lymph nodes, right? So I just take one example. This is the cervical lymph node. If I say that this is the cervical lymph node, right? So these are the four cervical lymph nodes, right? Now I'm showing you the tumor in the black color. So tumor cell is involving first group of the lymph node. This is the tumor. This is the tumor of Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? So what is the meaning of contiguity? Contiguity means neighborhood. पड़ोसी वाला, बाजू वाला. Contiguity means बाजू वाला. So at that point we have to remember contiguity means बाजू वाला. पड़ोसी को तुम बोलोगे बाजू वाला. Class में जो तुम बैठे हुए, when you are sitting in the class, the person who is sitting very next to you is called as contiguous to you. Understood? So here what it says that this lymph node involvement will be from the 1 to 2, then 2 to 3, then 3 to 4. It will not be from the 1 to 4 directly. Now understood? This is the meaning of contiguity. बाजू वाला, बाजू वाला, बाजू वाला. Right? Neighborhood, like that they will be involving. So from the first group of the lymph node, they will migrate, they will involve second. Then they will migrate, they will involve third one. Then they will migrate, they will involve fourth one. So this is called contiguity. So understood? So there is a stepwise contiguous involvement of the lymph node present in the young patient. Most likely diagnosis will be Hodgkin's lymphoma. So that is how question has been asked in NEET PG exam. Right? Young patient, stepwise contiguous involvement of the lymph node is seen in Hodgkin's lymphoma. Right? Now, as I told you, all the exceptions are very, very important questions. So here examiner will be asking you one important thing. That is, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, what I have told you, lymph node involvement is rare. So I'm just writing more clearly, lymph node involvement is rare. Right? But here you need to remember exceptions. Except. There are two areas in our body where non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is very common, Hodgkin's lymphoma is very rare. What are those areas? So what are those areas? Number one is the Waldeyer ring of the pharynx. So Waldeyer ring of lymph nodes. Right? Second is mesenteric lymph nodes. So Waldeyer ring and mesenteric lymph node involvement is common. So I'm just making 3 plus because they are commonly 4 plus because they are commonly affected in the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And these group of lymph nodes, right? So remember, in short, I'm writing Waldeyer ring and mesenteric lymph nodes are rarely involved in case of the Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now you understood. That is how question will be framed in your future exam. See, earlier examiner used to ask that in Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? Stepwise contiguous involvement of the lymph node in a young patient, 16-year-old. Now what will be the future question? Future question will be 16-year-old boy coming with the presentation of the mesenteric lymph node and Waldeyer ring node involvement, Waldeyer ring lymph node involvement. Most likely which lymphoma? Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's? So that time you have to remember non-Hodgkin's. These are the two exceptions. Waldeyer ring and mesenteric lymph node, right? So Waldeyer ring, mesenteric lymph node involvement is more common in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and rare in case of the Hodgkin's lymphoma. Clear? Now you understood this point. So that is the very, very basic thing which we have to understand about the Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now the second thing, a very basic question which was the DNB and NEET PG question, which is the most common lymph node involved in lymphoma? See, this question is very simple question. Very simple question. Because examiner is not talking about the which lymphoma. He is just general, including both Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. If we are including both of them, and examiner is asking which is the most common group of lymph node, what should be your right answer? What is the most common group of lymph node? Can you tell me? Cervical, mediastinal, or axillary? So this question was the NEET question in 2015. So remember, this is the line of intro because it is not given in Robbins, right? So always remember, cervical lymph node is most commonly affected. When examiner is asking the general terminology, right? General terminology, most common lymph node involved in the lymphoma, including both Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's, right? It means they're talking about including both Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's. Even separately also, if they're asking, remember, cervical lymph node is the most commonly affected lymph node. No, it's not mediastinal, it's just cervical. After cervical, it will be mediastinal, right? Clear? So now we have seen what is the WHO classification, Hodgkin's versus non-Hodgkin's, right? Now we will see what is non-Hodgkin's classification. Non-Hodgkin's classification is now divided into two groups: B cell and T cell, right? Hodgkin's versus non-Hodgkin's, right? Now we will see what is non-Hodgkin's classification. Non-Hodgkin's classification is now divided into two groups: B cell and T cell, right? Please refresh it. Prabhu, refresh it. I think maybe the internet problem. I will also refresh it. Okay. Clear, Prabhu? Okay. So I was telling you, when we are talking about non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, we are dividing them into two groups: B cell and T cell. Right? B cells and T cells. Now B cell and T cell both are further divided into two subgroups: precursor and peripheral. T cell is also T cell precursor and T cell peripheral. Precursor is very simple, only one thing: precursor B type of ALL, precursor T cell में precursor T cell type of AL. Right? So that is the simple. In peripheral, you will be having CLL, SLL, chronic lymphocytic leukemia. So we are talking about B cell, right? CLL, mantle cell, follicular lymphoma, Burkitt lymphoma, hairy cells, DLBL, and plasma cell. So these are all B cell type of peripheral non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. T cell type of peripheral, we have remembered these three: mycosis, anaplastic large cell lymphoma, and enteropathy associated T cell lymphoma. Right? So this is how we are dividing the NHL. Right? Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now we are going to start. Right? So now we are going to start with the Hodgkin's lymphoma. But before that, I will tell you what is the origin of all these tumor cells. Origin of all these tumor cells. This was the question in the AIMS exam also. Right? Shubham 1, 2. Yes, so you can see the slide after also. You can download it, right? So you can see that slide also. So nothing to worry, right? Right. So origin of lymphoma had been asked in exam earlier, right? So it has been asked in earlier exam. So don't ask me to go for the backside because we have to discuss a lot, right? So and you can see all these things. These are recorded videos only, right? And you can take out the PDF without annotation also and with annotation also. Right? Means whatever marking I am with that also you can take out, and without that also you can take out. There are two options, right? So that will be good one. So B cell type and T cell type. So now we all know that B cell will be getting involved in the bone marrow. T cell will be involved in the thymus, right? So when we are seeing the B cell in the bone marrow, first will be the common lymphoid progenitor cell, right? So there is a common lymphoid progenitor cell, then precursor B lymphocyte, then naive B cells, right? So now understood. These are the short form I have written. This is the CLP is the common lymphoid progenitor cell. Common lymphoid progenitor cell. So this is the CLP. PBL is the peripheral B. Sorry, not peripheral. Precursor B lymphocyte. NBC stands for naive B cells, right? So these are naive B cells. Clear? So these are the three important cells which we can see, right? Common lymphoid progenitor, precursor B cell lymphocyte, and naive B cell. So who will be arising from the precursor B lymphocyte? Pre-B type of ALL, right? In AIMS exam, question was, what is the origin of chronic lymphocytic leukemia? Right? Chronic lymphocytic leukemia or SLL, they originate from the naive B cell, and this was the answer. Right? So now you understood CLL, SLL will be arising from the naive B cell, and this was the answer in the AIMS exam. Right? Now this naive B cell will come to the lymph node. This is the lymph node. In lymph node, I just made this representative diagram. There are three zones in the lymph node which you can see: germinal center, mantle cell, and outermost is the marginal. Margin से जो होगा वो marginal, right? So marginal zone, mantle zone, and germinal center. Right? So who are arising from the germinal center? Which lymphoma will arise from the germinal center? So remember, germinal center, you will see follicular lymphoma, right? You will see Burkitt lymphoma. You will see diffuse large B cell lymphoma, and remember in Hodgkin's lymphoma only the lymphocyte predominant will be arising from here. So all these are germinal center origin of the Hodgkin of the lymphomas, right? So germinal center who will be arising: follicular lymphoma, Burkitt lymphoma, diffuse large B cell. Hodgkin's lymphoma not all, only one, that is the lymphocyte predominant. Otherwise other will not be arising from here, right? Mantle zone, we all know that mantle zone only one lymphoma, that is the mantle cell lymphoma, right? So from mantle zone, I'm just writing here, mantle zone, there will be mantle cell lymphoma. Right? So mantle cell lymphoma is arising from the mantle zone, right? Who will be arising from the marginal zone? So obviously the name is again telling all about. So marginal zone, there will be a marginal zone B cell lymphoma. Marginal zone B cell lymphoma. Because this diagram is given in Robbins, that is why I wanted to just discuss some about this diagram, right? So B cell, you can see lymphoid progenitor cell, precursor B lymphocyte, naive B cell is giving rise to CLL, right? Then they will come into the lymph node. Lymph node, there are three areas: center is the germinal, and outermost is the marginal, and in between is the mantle. So in germinal center, you will see follicular lymphoma, Burkitt lymphoma, DLBL, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that is only lymphocyte predominant, right? Mantle zone, you will see mantle lymphoma. Marginal zone, you will see marginal zone B cell lymphoma, right? Clear? Yes, CLL can be arising from the marginal also. CLL, SLL can be, you can add on here, even yes, CLL, SLL can be also arising from the marginal zone areas, right? Now coming to the T cell type. T cell type, first they will be CD4 and 8 both negative. Later on they will become CD4 and CD8 both positive. And both of them, whether it is negative or positive, will be giving rise to precursor T cell type of ALL. They will be giving rise to precursor T cell type of ALL, right? So this is thymus. Now these will be coming to the lymph node, and in the lymph node they will be forming peripheral T cell lymphoma, right? They will be in the periphery of the lymph node, and they will be forming peripheral T cell lymphoma, right? Clear? Fine. So now we are going to discuss about the Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? So I'm going to tell you about the first lymphoma which we are going to discuss is the Hodgkin's lymphoma. First we are going to discuss about the Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? So first of all, we should all know that what is the etiology of the Hodgkin's lymphoma. If you look at the etiology, are usually associated with, remember what I'm saying, that usually associated with which infection? Epstein-Barr virus infection. Usually, remember what I have used the word, they are usually associated, means not always, usually associated with Epstein-Barr virus infection. That is the feature of the Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? So that is the etiology, right? Now what will be the pathogenesis? So pathogenesis is this Epstein-Barr virus is going to affect which cell? B cell, right? Now this was the question in the already exam, that what is the receptor for Epstein-Barr virus on B cell? Can you tell me? Yes, very good. So that is the CD21. CD21 is also known as complement receptor type 2. That was also a PG question, right? So both are same, CD21 or complement receptor type 2, right? Complement receptor type 2. Very good question, right? So now understood, Epstein-Barr virus is going to combine with the receptor which is present on the B cell. That is the CD21 or complement receptor type. What will happen? Now look at this. This is the real B cell, right? Nucleus, right? And here you can see there is an interaction between the Epstein-Barr virus and CD21 receptor. So what will happen? This will activate the nuclear transcription factor. So there will be signal generation. Signal will be transmitted to the nucleus, and in the nucleus, when they are activated, they are going to form the nuclear transcription factors. And because of this upregulated nuclear transcription factor, right? Because this Epstein-Barr virus and interaction, there will be increased expression of the nuclear transcription factor, and this expression of the nuclear transcription factor will convert them into a neoplastic cell, which is called as Reed-Sternberg cell. Reed-Sternberg cell. Here onwards, I will be writing in the short as a RS cells. Understood? So this is how Reed-Sternberg cell will be formed. This is how Reed-Sternberg cell will be formed. So now you understood this point. How Reed-Sternberg cell will be formed? Epstein-Barr virus will come. They will affect the B cell. Right? This interaction of the Epstein-Barr virus with CD21 will activate nucleus. Nucleus will synthesize nuclear transcription factor, and this will start converting them into the neoplastic Reed-Sternberg cell, which I will be breaking into small. Right? So how to identify the Reed-Sternberg cell? Reed-Sternberg cells, I am writing here. Nucleus like this, mirror-like nuclei. Right, so now you can see that Reed-Sternberg cells are mirror-like nuclei, and they are having prominent eosinophilic nucleoli. They will be having prominent eosinophilic nucleoli. Right. So prominent eosinophilic nucleoli is going to give them a nickname which is called as owl eye appearance. Right. So owl eye appearance. That is the very, very important point we have to remember. So Reed-Sternberg cell. So now you can see that Reed-Sternberg cell nuclei, mirror-like nuclei, and that is why they are called as owl eye appearance. Right. So now you can see that. This is the owl eye appearance, right? This is the owl eye appearance. You can see these are the two owl eyes. So here, why I wanted to discuss this, because this creates a lot of confusion. Because sometime examiner had asked this question in November 2017, right? They have given this and they had asked this, right? So both are owl eye appearance. One is the Reed-Sternberg cell, and second is the cytomegalovirus. Right? So now you understood there are two types of Reed-Sternberg cells. You have to remember, right? There are two types of owl eye appearance. Sorry, two types of owl eye appearance. One is the Reed-Sternberg cell, and second is the CMV. Clear? So now you understood there are two types of owl eye appearance: Reed-Sternberg and CMV. How to discriminate between these two? Now you can see that what is happening here. It is having eosinophilic nucleoli. Right, eosinophilic nucleoli, that is the Reed-Sternberg cell, right? Whereas in case of cytomegalovirus infection, they have a prominent basophilic viral inclusion. So this is blue in color. Can you see? The inside is having blue in color, and this is called basophilic viral inclusions, right? Right. So now I'm showing you these two pictures. Can you see this? This is the diagram where you can see one is the classical Reed-Sternberg cell. Can you see this is the classical Reed-Sternberg cells, right? In the classical Reed-Sternberg cell, can you notice what we are seeing here? This is the two prominent nucleus. So this is the nuclei, right? Nuclei is the reason to call them as a classical Reed-Sternberg cell. Clear? Everybody understood? So when to say that it is a classical Reed-Sternberg cell, when you are having a mirror-like nuclei and eosinophilic prominent nuclei, that will be called as classical Reed-Sternberg cell. Clear? How you will identify the other owl eye appearance? So you can see this is the CMV infection. So this is also CMV, but here you are not seeing mirror-like. Usually you will not find mirror-like. I'll tell you. Right? Mirror-like is very rare to see, but if you see, you have to understand that you have to discriminate from the Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? So what we are seeing here, can you see this cell? And this is the CMV, cytomegalovirus infection, right? So what I'm showing you here is cytomegalovirus infection, and in this cytomegalovirus infection, you can see prominent basophilic viral intrusion. So this blue color is the basophilic viral intrusion which are present in the nucleus. Right, so this prominent intrusion, this basophilic intrusion is present in the nuclei, and these are present in the cytomegalovirus infection. Right, clear or not? Right. So in this, what you have to understand, in cytomegalovirus, if you see very carefully here, it is not very visible clearly, but in this you can see cytoplasm is also having viral inclusion. So basophilic viral inclusion is present in what area? Cytoplasm. Right. So that is also one important MCQ. That is why I wanted to say that this is the intranuclear as well as cytoplasmic. So now you understood how to discriminate the classical Reed-Sternberg cell from the CMV infection, because both are owl eye appearance. Now you understood? So how to discriminate owl eye appearance, we can discriminate on the basis of the nuclei. If it is eosinophilic nuclei, it is the Reed-Sternberg cell, and if it is the basophilic viral inclusion, it will be a cytomegalovirus. Clear? You all understood? Because these are very essential things. These images will be asked in your exam, and they had asked this image in the AIMS November 2017. Right. Now coming to the next point. If I ask you Reed-Sternberg cells alone on the microscopic examination, means on the lymph node biopsy, Reed-Sternberg cells alone are diagnostic. True or false? Alone they are diagnostic. True or false? False statement. Very good. Very nice. So when they are alone are non-diagnostic. Why? Why they are non-diagnostic? Alone they are non-diagnostic. Reed-Sternberg cells, if you see them alone, they are non-diagnostic because RS cells are also seen. Alone RS cells are also seen. I should do this. Right, non-diagnostic because alone they are also seen in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? Sarcoma, carcinoma, and one infection called infectious mononucleosis. Right? So now you understood these are the various conditions where you will be seeing in the Reed-Sternberg cells, right? So all alone Reed-Sternberg cells are also seen in NHL, sarcoma, carcinoma, and one infection called infectious mononucleosis, right? So that is why alone they are non-diagnostic, right? So how to confirm the histological diagnosis then? Now the question is how we are going to confirm histological confirmation of diagnosis. So histological confirmation of diagnosis, right? Histological confirmation of diagnosis, when you are asked, remember you can give when you are finding Reed-Sternberg cells plus mixed inflammation in the background. Right? So when you are finding Reed-Sternberg cells along with mixed inflammation in the background, that will be considered as diagnostic. And this mixed inflammation can be eosinophil, can be neutrophil, lymphocyte, plasma cell, histiocyte. So all these cells will be present in the background, right? So now you understood histological diagnosis of the Hodgkin's lymphoma is based on RS cells along with mixed inflammation, not alone. It should be present with the mixture of all these things, right? Clear? Now here I wanted to tell you one important thing, that is the infectious mononucleosis, right? Here I just wanted to tell you about infectious mononucleosis because this was the question in the NEET PG exam, right? Infectious mononucleosis is also because of the Epstein-Barr virus, right? This will be affecting the mononucleosis. There is a named cell which is called as Downey cell or atypical lymphocytes. Downey cells, or also known as atypical Scurd cell. right? So these are the three names for Downey cell, right? So examiner had asked earlier this question, right, where you will see the Downey cells, right? So Downey cells are seen in infectious mononucleosis, also known as atypical lymphocyte, also known as ballerina skirt cell. So my question is, what is this Downey cell, B cell or T cell? Can you tell me in the comment box what is the Downey cell, B cell or T cell? See this again. I repeat again. Now you apply your immunological knowledge. See what I'm saying, that Epstein-Barr virus is affecting the or infecting the B cells, right? So virus is affecting this cell. Virus is affecting this cell. So which cell will be activated after seeing this infection? Understood? Which cell will affect B cell? Which cell? T cell? CD8 cytotoxic. So why examiner is asking this question? Because examiner knew very well. Everybody is mugging up that Epstein-Barr virus is affecting B cell and infectious mononucleosis. B cells are damaged, but they're not applying their immunological knowledge. If a virus affected cell, understood? A virus affected cell will be handled by which cell? CD8 cytotoxic cell. So it can be CD8 cytotoxic cell also. And remember, in certain extent, it can be natural killer cell also. Both cell can be a Downey cell, right? So both cell can be a Downey cell, right? So Downey cell, how you will identify them? They will be the larger cell. Right, they will be like this. They will be the larger cells. Now you can see that when infectious mononucleosis is happening, you are going to see the Downey cells. Right, Epstein-Barr virus is affecting the B cell, and because of this infection, they are getting activation of the CD8 cytotoxic cell, and these are the Downey cells. Right, how you will see Downey cells on the peripheral smear? This is the appearance on the peripheral smear. Right, so what we are seeing in the peripheral smear, usually lymphocyte will not be there like this. The CD8 cytotoxic lymphocyte will not be like this, but here why they are called as atypical? Why they are called as atypical? Because of the larger cytoplasm. Larger cytoplasm. I'm talking about the reason for saying them atypical lymphocyte. Why they are called as atypical lymphocyte? What is the reason? So number one reason is the larger cytoplasm. Number two reason, they will be having prominent nucleoli also. So larger cytoplasm plus prominent nucleoli, right? So larger cytoplasm with prominent nucleoli, these are atypical lymphocyte, right? In this cytoplasm, you can see how is the cytoplasm, zigzag cytoplasm. Can you see the nature of the cytoplasm? They are zigzag. Why they are zigzag? Can you notice what is here? These are all RBC. So because of the RBC, the cytoplasm is zigzag or indented cytoplasm. So RBC is creating indentation into the cytoplasm of these CD8 cytotoxic cells. I understood. Yeah, sort of molding. Here we will not use the word molding. Right, here it is. Molding is used when they are changing the shape because of the nucleus, right? So indentation into the cytoplasm of the CD8 cytotoxic cell when you are seeing. So this looks like a ballerina skirt, and that is why they are called as ballerina skirt cell. So now you understood why this is called as ballerina skirt cell. Why I wanted to explain all these things, because many students, they just mug up, right? They'll be just knowing that there is a ballerina skirt cell which is the name of the Downey cell, but they will not understand. See, it is very, very important to understand that thing also, right? Why it is called as ballerina skirt? Because of the RBC. RBC is putting impression like a molding, right? It's like a molding only, putting impression on the cytoplasm, and now they are getting indentation in the cytoplasm like a ballerina skirt. That is why it's called as ballerina skirt cell, right? So you can see this picture. This is the atypical lymphocyte. You can see this is the atypical lymphocyte. This one is atypical lymphocyte. Ballerina skirt. That is why it's called as ballerina skirt cell, right? They are getting indentation in the cytoplasm like a ballerina skirt. That is why it's called as ballerina skirt cell, right? So you can see this picture. This is the atypical lymphocyte. You can see this is the atypical lymphocyte. This one is atypical lymphocyte. This one is atypical lymphocyte, right? So see, when you are seeing the smear, what happens in general thing? What a student they do? They just see this one. They just see the cell. They do not observe the surrounding RBC. Can you observe the surrounding RBC? They are putting their impression on the cytoplasm. Now understood, and that is why cytoplasm is looking like this. Understood? That's such a beautiful thing. But you have to be very observant. That is why I always say that you have to be very observant in your exam or while you are seeing any images or histopathology. You have to be comparing all these things. See, around the neutrophil there is no problem, but around this you can see the cytoplasm is so big and edgy, and because of the RBC there is an indentation, and that is why they are called as ballerina skirt cell. So you can see this is the ballerina skirt, right? So ballerina skirt cell, Downey cell, ballerina skirt cell, or atypical lymphocyte. Atypical because they are having more cytoplasm and have nucleoli, right? Cytoplasm tends to be indented by the surrounding RBC. That is why it is called as ballerina skirt cell. That's why it is called as ballerina skirt cell. Clear? Right? Fine. Right. So these are all done. Now we will be coming for the WHO classification of the Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now we are going to see what is the WHO classical and non-classical, or you can write them as a nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. Here onwards I will just writing lymphocyte predominant, right? But nowadays WHO is using the full name only. So these are the two groups: classical and nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, which will be written as NLPHL, right? So nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? So examiner will be also using the word NLPL. So that time you have to be having knowledge about this thing, that NLPHL is nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. So WHO has divided Hodgkin's lymphoma into two parts, right? Classical and nodular. So question is why WHO has separated the nodular lymphocytic from the classical. What is the reason? Yes, it is the reason of the immunophenotyping. Reason is the immunophenotyping. This was the question in exam also. Immunophenotyping is the study of the CD marker. Immunophenotyping of whom? Immunophenotyping of the Reed-Sternberg cells, right? So Reed-Sternberg cell immunophenotyping has forced WHO to divide them into two broader groups. One is the classical, second is the nodular, right? So what will be the classical one? Classical Reed-Sternberg cells. Classical Reed-Sternberg cell, CD marker. So immunophenotyping of the classical Reed-Sternberg cell, they will be CD15 positive, CD30 positive. Both will be positive, right? Whereas when we talk about the Reed-Sternberg cells of the nodular lymphocytic predominant, they are arising from the germinal center of the lymph node. That is the another important MCQ we have to remember. Germinal center. You remember when I was showing you the origin of the all these NHL, I was telling you only one Hodgkin's lymphoma which was arising from the germinal center. That is the nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. Lymphocyte predominant. Remember lymphocyte predominant that time. So classical is not arising from there, right? So now you understood germinal center. So what are the germinal center markers? What are the germinal center markers you will find here? So definitely they are not 15 positive and 30 positive. 15 minus, 30 minus. So these two markers are negative in case of the lymphocyte predominant. So they will be positive for the germinal center marker. And what are the germinal center marker? What are the germinal center marker? Germinal center marker is CD20, 45 and BCL6. One of the very, very important point you need to remember, right? So these are the three important germinal center markers, right? So these are the germinal center markers which you are seeing, right? So 20 positive, 45 positive, BCL6 positive, right? But they are negative for the 15 and 30. So now you understood why WHO has decided to separate Hodgkin's lymphoma into classical and NLSPL or lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma because of immunophenotyping of Reed-Sternberg cells. Classical Reed-Sternberg cells 15-30 positive and lymphocyte predominant will be arising from the germinal center, and that is why 15-30 negative. And they will be positive for the germinal center marker, which is 20 positive, 45 positive, and BCL6 positive. Right? So now you understood. So these are the markers of the nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now you understood. Lymphocyte predominant is positive for 20, BCL6, and CD45. They will be negative for 15 and 30. They will be negative for 15 and 30. 15-30 will be positive only in case of the classical Hodgkin's lymphoma. Right? So now you understood this point. Let us start. Right? How to understand about this lymphoma? Classical Hodgkin's lymphoma has been divided into 4 subtypes. Classical Hodgkin's is divided into 4 subtypes: nodular, mixed cellularity, lymphocyte rich, lymphocyte poor. Right? And the fifth one, according to the WHO, I'm just writing separately so that we can understand the discussion. The lymphocyte predominant. You remember lymphocyte predominant. So now you can see there are 2 types of Hodgkin's lymphoma which WHO has divided: classical and lymphocyte predominant. Right? Now my question is, which is most common in India and which is most common in the world? Which Hodgkin's lymphoma is most common? Which Hodgkin's lymphoma is most common? Can you tell me? Which Hodgkin's lymphoma is most common? Right. So when examiner is asking which is the most common Hodgkin's lymphoma, remember nodular sclerosis is the most common non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in the world. When nothing is written, you have to understand he is talking about the world, right? But when examiner is very particular about the India, most common Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? Most common Hodgkin's lymphoma in India, or India is a developing country, or in developing country. So what is the most common lymphoma? Most common lymphoma, it is mixed cellularity, because India is having mixed cellularity, right? India is having mixed cellularity. So what is most common in India? India, it is mixed cellularity, right? So I understood most common in India is the mixed cellularity. So either examiner can ask you India, or it can ask you in the developing countries, right? So mixed cellularity is most common, right? Which will be having best prognosis? So here, lymphocyte count, if it is more, prognosis will be good, and lymphocyte count will be maximum in the lymphocyte predominant, and that is why lymphocyte predominant out of all these will be having best prognosis, right? So best prognosis is lymphocyte predominant, and because lymphocyte is poor, so poor will be having worse prognosis, right? So now you understood this point. So when examiner is going to ask you the question, right, which Hodgkin's lymphoma is most common? Nodular sclerosis is most common. Which Hodgkin's lymphoma is most common in India or developing country? Remember, we are having mixed population, mixed cellularity is most common, right? When examiner says which is having best prognosis, so best prognosis where lymphocyte count is maximum, and lymphocyte predominant is having maximum lymphocyte count, so they will be having best prognosis. Lymphocyte poor is having worst prognosis because number of lymphocyte count is very low in this one, right? Now we'll discuss about all these types because of the presence of the Reed-Sternberg cell, right? So one by one I will be describing about them. So number 1, I am going to tell you about the nodular sclerosis, right? So can you see the name deposition, right? So which Hodgkin's lymphoma will be having collagen deposition? That was the question in the all India exam. So now it is easy. You just know the meaning of sclerosis is collagen deposition. So because of the collagen deposition, there is a nodule formation. So when you are going to see this microscopy, you will notice there is a eosinophilic nodules of the collagen deposition, right? So these are the collagen deposition, right? Eosinophilic collagen deposition, yes, like a scleroderma. There is a collagen deposition. So these are all collagen bands. So we will be calling them as a collagen bands. This was the exact question which examiner asked in quality exam, right? And around this collagen band, see, you can see these collagen bands are forming 2 nodules, right? They are forming 2 nodules. So that is why it is called as nodular sclerosis. So these are the all nodules, right? These are the nodules. That is why it is called as nodular sclerosis because of the collagen band, right? When you will see at the scanner view, you can see, and in low power view, you will be finding this nodule of the collagen, right? And within the nodule, you will see the tumor cells. What will be the characteristic of the tumor cell? When we are making paraffin section of this tumor, cytoplasm will be removed, right? Cytoplasm will be removed like this, and you will be seeing only nucleus. Cytoplasm will be clear. So you can see the nucleus, and there is a cytoplasmic clearing. Understood? So cytoplasm is clear because of the paraffin artifact. It's artifact, right? So when they are clear cytoplasm, this is creating a lacuna, and that is why such type of Reed-Sternberg cells are called as lacunar Reed-Sternberg cells, right? So now understood, lacunar Reed-Sternberg cells are seen in which lymphoma? Nodular sclerosis. Lacunar Reed-Sternberg cells are seen in which lymphoma? Nodular sclerosis. Clear or not? Everybody understood? So nodular is called as lacunar because of the cytoplasmic clearing. There will be no cytoplasm because of the artifact. When you are preparing it, cytoplasm will be removed, right? When you are preparing the paraffin section, cytoplasm is getting removed, right? Because of the cytoplasm clearing, there is a lacuna formation, and that is why these are called as lacunar Reed-Sternberg cell, right? So nodular sclerosis is having good prognosis, right? So they will be having good prognosis. Usually they will be presenting with the mediastinal involvement, right? Right? And male, female, both will be equally affected. So clear? In one nodule, there will be many Reed-Sternberg cells. Many. I'm just giving you one example because I start making many, then it will be taking more time. Right? So I'll show you the diagram. You'll understand after that. So now I will show you this picture. See this one. This is called nodular sclerosis. Can you see? This is the low power view. This is the low power view of nodular sclerosis variant of the Hodgkin's lymphoma. Can you see what are these things? These are the collagen bands. Eosinophilic collagen bands. Understood? Collagen bands. So whatever we are seeing here, can you see? Whatever you are seeing here, these are all eosinophilic collagen bands, right? Eosinophilic collagen bands. See, I'm marking eosinophilic collagen bands, right? And because of this eosinophilic collagen band, you can see 1 nodule, 2 nodule, 3 nodule, and 4 nodule. Clear? So it's a low power view, right? And I'm showing you collagen bands are forming nodules, right? So now you understood, because of these nodules, this is called as nodular sclerosis, right? Now at this low power also, can you notice there are areas where you can see there are areas dark blue color. There are so many cells, but this area, can you notice something? This is looking clear because of the cytoplasmic clearing. Yeah, cytoplasmic clearing is seen here also, right? So this is called clear cytoplasm. And when you will move this slide on the high power, so high power view, this will be the beautiful Reed-Sternberg cell. So now you can see that there are so many cells, right? So you can see this Shubham, there are so many cells are present in the one nodule. So there's not fixed thing, right? It is not fixed thing. So it can be having variable numbers, right? So there's nothing called there's a fixed number. So now I'm showing you this is the beautiful picture of lacunar Reed-Sternberg cells. Lacunar Reed-Sternberg cells, which which you are going to see in the nodular sclerosis Hodgkin's lymphoma. So can you see there is a cytoplasmic clearing, right? So cytoplasmic clearing, cytoplasm is clear, and you can see this is the nucleus. So that is why it is called as lacuna, and this Reed-Sternberg cell is called as lacunar Reed-Sternberg cell. Clear? So now you can see all these cells are like that only. Cytoplasm is clear, only nucleus is present. Cytoplasm is clear, cytoplasm is clear, cytoplasm clear, lacuna. Right? Clear? Fine. Now next is the mixed cellularity Hodgkin's lymphoma. So next group is the mixed cellularity, and third one, both I will be taking together, lymphocyte rich. Just wait and watch. Even you will not see the binucleated also. I'm going to say that thing also, right? So that is, that is not the strict criteria. That is the characteristic, right? That is the characteristic. Majority of the time you will be seeing the binucleated, but it's not always. Mixed cellularity, listen to me now. Mixed cellularity is common in India or developing country, as I have told you. So what is the feature common to both of them when you are going to see the Reed-Sternberg cells? Right? So Shubham, for you only. When you are going to see the nucleus here, now you'll be seeing only one nucleus. So there is only one nucleus. So this is called as mononuclear type of Reed-Sternberg cells. Mononuclear Reed-Sternberg cells. Right? So mononuclear Reed-Sternberg cell will be present in the mixed cellularity also, and this will be present in the lymphocyte rich also. Clear? So now you understood why I was telling you it is not always necessary to have a binucleated, and this is the mononuclear from the Robbins. If you open Robbins and see that picture, you will find this thing. So this is the mononuclear Reed-Sternberg cell. Can you see the cell? Right? Only one nucleus is there. So this is the mononuclear Reed-Sternberg cells, which will be seen in the both mixed cellularity and lymphocyte rich type of Hodgkin's lymphoma, and more commonly it is seen in the lymphocyte rich variant if the examiner is asking you to choose a single option. Right? All other are blue lymphocytes. All other blue are these are all normal lymphocytes, right? These are all normal lymphocytes. All these blue are lymphocytes only. But these are some prominent lymphocytes. You can see this is the prominent lymphocyte, which is the mononuclear Reed-Sternberg cell. Right? So mixed cellularity, there are a few things which I wanted to tell you here. Mixed cellularity is having most common association with the Epstein-Barr virus as well as HIV virus infection. Please remember this point. Please remember this point. Mixed cellularity is most commonly associated with the Epstein-Barr virus or HIV infection. Right? That is the important thing, because in Robbins it is written HIV is commonly seen in the lymphocyte depleted. That is the data of the database of the America Post Problem. Because WHO fascicle, which we follow for the leukemia lymphoma, which everybody follow, even Robbins follow, there it is written that HIV is the most commonly associated with the mixed cellularity, not with the depleted one. Right? So mixed cellularity is most commonly associated with Epstein-Barr virus. And here I will again tell you that not only the most commonly, if examiner says strongly, also answer will be the same. Right? Most strongly or most commonly associated, the same answer should be there. Right? So mixed cellularity is strongly associated with Epstein-Barr virus, also HIV also. Oh, WHO is very much busy. They have a lot of work, right? So people take the references. Even Robbins also, you will see the references from the WHO. But the problem is, when they are writing, see, when Robbins is writing the book, he is not writing the book in the mind that this book will be read by Indian people, right? And they'll be asking this kind of the dubious question, right? And they'll be creating the book according to their own, own country, not for this country, right? But that is why WHO is the set standard, which is now creating the standard. This is the word I said, everybody has to follow. It is now your wish you want to follow or not, right? So same way. Fine. So now you understood mononuclear Reed-Sternberg cell will be seen here. Now the next thing is the lymphocyte poor. So fourth one is lymphocyte poor. Lymphocyte poor, as I have told you, there is no lymphocyte, so they will be having worse prognosis. And here you will see a variable kind of Reed-Sternberg cell. So they are having variable shape and sizes. That is why they are called as pleomorphic Reed-Sternberg cells. Sometime in this pleomorphic Reed-Sternberg cell, you may find the calcifications. Right? You may find the calcification, and then it is called as mummified Reed-Sternberg cell. Mummified Reed-Sternberg cell. So this was also a question in the NEET exam, right? So mummified Reed-Sternberg cells. So remember, this is the question. Mummified Reed-Sternberg cells are seen in the lymphocyte poor or lymphocyte depleted. Always remember, mummified Reed-Sternberg cell is seen in the lymphocyte poor or depleted type of Hodgkin's lymphoma. Clear? So these are the important point about the lymphocyte poor. Now coming to the next one, the second one, that is the nodular lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. You remember the second group given by WHO, lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? Nodular lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. What is characteristic of this one? They have two important salient features. Number one, Epstein-Barr virus. You remember? Yes, these are non-classical. Very good. You can call them as a non-classical also. Right. So you remember in the beginning what I told you, that Hodgkin's lymphoma, usually they are associated with the Epstein-Barr virus. Usually, understood? Usually. So which is not associated with Epstein-Barr virus. That was the PGI and AIMS question in 2017. So this is the NLPHL, nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin lymphoma, Epstein-Barr virus having no association. So this is not associated with this, right? So EBV is not associated. So this was the question in the PGI exam. So nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin lymphoma is having no association with the Epstein-Barr virus, right? So this is the number one. Second thing, if you look at the Reed-Sternberg cell, what is the Reed-Sternberg cell here? Already I have told you, just for the sake of revision, I will tell you, they are arising from which area? Arising from the germinal center. What is the marker of the germinal center? Remember, BCL6 positive, CD20 positive, CD45 positive. Clear? Clear? So they are arising from the germinal center. They are not like a classical Hodgkin's lymphoma. So that is why they will be CD15 negative, 30 negative. So always remember this point also. Now coming to the Reed-Sternberg cell. What is the name of Reed-Sternberg cell? These are called as lymphocyte histiocyte rich variant of Reed-Sternberg cell. Right? So lymphocyte histiocyte rich variant of Reed-Sternberg cells are seen in the nodular lymphocyte. Right? So in this nodular lymphocyte, right, lymphocyte histiocyte rich variant, when you are going to see on the microscopic examination, this will be the appearance. This will be the appearance. Can you see lymphocyte histiocyte rich variant of the Reed-Sternberg cell, which you are going to see in the nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? And this is also known as popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell. So now understood, popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell is the another name for the lymphocyte histiocyte rich variant of the Reed-Sternberg cell, right? So why they are called as popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell? They are not going to look like a popcorn exactly, right? So why it is called as popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell? Now you can see there are two reasons for that thing. What are the two reasons? Number one, the nucleus appearance, and second is also the nucleus appearance. Either they are having a polyp-like nuclei, so polypoidal nuclear lobes. Right, so this is the number one, polypoidal nuclear lobes. Second, you can see they are having multiple lobes, multilobated nuclei. Right, so polypoidal nuclear lobe or multilobated nuclei, this will be the feature you will see in the popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell. So that is the point you have to keep in your mind to identify popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell. Previous year NEET PG question. Right, popcorn Reed-Sternberg cells are seen in which lymphoma? Nodular lymphocytic predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. Right, clear? Now look at this one. This is the picture given in the Robbins, right? And this is how you are going to identify in your exam. This is the cell. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Never forget rule of 5. Observation, comparison, observation, comparison, observation, comparison, observation, comparison. What is this cell? Can you see? This is the cell. In this cell, you can notice that there is a nuclear lobe is hanging like this. Can you see this? Nuclear lobe is hanging like this. So what is this? Polypoidal nuclear lobe. So this is the popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell. So that is how you will identify popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell. Now is it clear to all of you how to identify popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell? You will be seeing multilobated or polypoidal nuclear lobes. Right now you can see there is one more cell. Just beside this there is another cell in the lymph node. And in this cell, if you look at in this cell, how is the appearance of the nuclei? How is the appearance of the nuclei? Can you see there is a one lobe, second lobe, third lobe, fourth lobe, and fifth lobe. So this is the multilobated. Right? So this is the multilobated nucleus. Multilobated nucleus, and here we were seeing polypoidal nuclei. So now you understood polypoidal and multilobated nuclei will be seen in the popcorn Reed-Sternberg cells of lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, or we can write nodular lymphocytic predominant also. Clear or not? Now you understood this point or not? Lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma will be having popcorn Reed-Sternberg cell. How you are going to identify them on the basis of the nuclear appearance, polypoidal. What are the bad prognostic features in the Hodgkin's lymphoma? Lymphocyte quantity only. Lymphocyte quantity will be moderately increased in the lymphocyte rich. Predominant will be having very high. Right? And second thing, the CD marker. They are classical, so they will be positive for 1530. And lymphocyte predominant will be positive for the, all the same thing. Whatever is the difference between the classical and the appearance of the Reed-Sternberg cell will be also counted. Right? Now, bad prognosis of the Hodgkin's lymphoma. These are the older questions in the exam. That is why I have taken male, more than 45 years age group. Hemoglobin is less than 10.5. Lymphocyte count will be decreased. Always remember. You remember when I started, I told you lymphocyte count is very important. Right? If lymphocyte count is more, as in predominant, prognosis will be good. Lymphocyte count is low, as in poor, prognosis will be bad. So whenever you see the lymphocyte count, we will focus on two things: absolute lymphocyte count and on differential analysis. Differential leukocyte analysis, you have to check for the lymphocyte count, right? How much it is. So absolute count should be less than 600 per micron liter, and on differential leukocyte analysis, which is called DLC, lymphocyte will be less than 8%. Normally it is 20 to 30%, right? So it should be less than 8%, or absolute lymphocyte count should be less than 600 per micron liter. Then we'll be saying that lymphocyte count is decreased, prognosis is bad. Less than 8%. Normally it is 20 to 30%, right? So it should be less than 8%, or absolute lymphocyte count should be less than 600 per micron liter. Then we'll be saying that lymphocyte count is decreased, prognosis is bad. Serum albumin is low, which is less than 4 gram per deciliter. That will be bad prognosis. Total leukocyte count, if it is high, remember lymphocyte count will be low, but total leukocyte count will be increased. So here we have to remember that total leukocyte count will be increased, and if it is more than 15,000 per ml, right? And stage 4 disease on the staging, right? Stage 4 means disseminated. Stage 4 means disseminated Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? Clear? So these are the bad prognostic markers for the Hodgkin's lymphoma. Here in exam, right? Amongst the Hodgkin's lymphoma, already I have told you, right? Amongst the Hodgkin's lymphoma, Epstein-Barr virus is not associated with nodular, right? Epstein-Barr virus, HIV, is most commonly associated with the mixed cellularity. Clear? Now my question is, Hodgkin's lymphoma, is it a HIV defining malignancy? I think I have discussed in the HIV topic, right? So they are not HIV defining. So I'm just closing down. I remember that I have taught you all these things. No? Okay, you're telling me the answer. Okay. So it is not an HIV defining tumor. HIV defining tumor में नहीं आता है. So ये चीज़ मैंने I think I have told you in the HIV discussion. So I think you realize there. I am not going to discuss it in wastage of time. Done. So now it is done. Right? So everybody understood how to identify the all type of Reed-Sternberg cell from the CMV infection. Right? How will be the classical clinical presentation of the Hodgkin's lymphoma? So remember, this is the bimodal involvement. Bimodal involvement. So it can involve the young patient also, it can be involving older patient also. So less than 15 year also and more than 50 year also. So all will be affected by this Hodgkin's. So bimodal involvement, number 1. Number 2, Hodgkin's lymphoma. What is the characteristic feature? If you look at their fever, fever will be the periodical fever. Periodical fever. So comes in the period, means 15 days they will be having fever. Next 15 days they will be having normalcy. Then again next 15 days they will be having fever. So this is called periodic fever. This is called periodic fever. Understood? So can you tell me what is the name of this periodical fever? What is the name of this periodical fever? This is called as Bell-Epstein fever. You understood? Bell-Epstein fever. Yes. Bell-Epstein fever is the fever which you see in the Hodgkin's lymphoma in your clinical posting, right? Especially the surgical clinics, they will be asking you. Right? Clear? Now, Hodgkin's lymphoma, when you are going to see their paraneoplastic syndrome, right? They have two beautiful paraneoplastic syndrome. One, when they have alcohol ingestion will induce pain in the lymph node. Pain in the lymph node will be increased. So this is the number 1 paraneoplastic syndrome. Second, they will be having a type of secondary amyloidosis. You remember in amyloidosis, when I was telling you, secondary amyloidosis can be seen in the paraneoplastic syndrome, renal cell cancer, and Hodgkin's lymphoma. So that is why I wanted to get you recall here also that Hodgkin's lymphoma paraneoplastic syndrome, number 1 is associated with the alcohol, right? And alcohol, when you take the alcohol, when patient will be taking the alcohol, he will be having more pain in the affected lymph node. And second is the secondary amyloidosis, which is a type of amyloidosis, right? Secondary amyloidosis, which is a type of amyloidosis. Clear? So these are the important points about the Hodgkin's lymphoma. I think it is done. Right? Now we will be starting the next one. Sorry. Right, so now we will start about the NHL. So remember, all these acute leukemias, ALL, and all these are the NHL, right? Acute lymphoblastic leukemia or lymphoma, like that we can call them, right? First, how to approach for acute leukemia. So now I am going to tell you what should be your approach for any acute leukemia patient. So now we have started NHL. So remember, this is the starting point of the NHL. Hodgkin's is over, right? So number 1, we are going to discuss about the ALL, right? Right, Hodgkin's is a B cell type of lymphoma. Hodgkin is a B cell type of lymphoma. Right. So acute leukemia, number 1, first I will tell you the basic protocol. Whenever we are coming across with the acute leukemia, what should be our approach? Acute leukemia case when comes, we will be taking out the bone marrow aspirate or biopsy. Right. After taking out the bone marrow aspirate or biopsy, we are going to check for the blast count. Right. Blast count should be how much? It should be more than 20% according to the WHO protocol. So now according to the latest WHO protocol, blast count should be more than 20% to call them as a acute leukemia. Remember what I'm talking about? I'm talking about acute leukemia. I'm not talking about the chronic leukemia. Very, very important thing you have to understand. I'm talking about the acute leukemia, bone marrow aspirate, blast count should be more than 20%. Right. Clear? And after that, now the myeloblast. So I'm going to the next page, right? Now you have to categorize the blast cell, whether it is a lymphocyte or lymphoblast or myeloblast. So just going like this: lymphoblast or myeloblast, right? So lymphoblast or myeloblast. How you are going to identify lymphoblast or myeloblast? How you are going to identify lymphoblast or myeloblast? So now look at this cell. Cytoplasm and nuclear feature will be differentiating between the lymphoblast and myeloblast. Remember, two things. There are two things. You are just focused two things: cytoplasmic features and nuclear feature. So what is the nuclear feature you are going to see here? No nucleoli. No nucleoli. Whereas prominent nucleoli will be present. Prominent nucleoli will be present in the myeloblast. So now you understood. Lymphoblast, no nucleoli. Myeloblast, prominent nucleoli will be present. Now look at the cytoplasm. In the cytoplasm, there will be no granule. No granule, right? Whereas in the cytoplasm of the myeloblastic cell, you will be seeing the granule. So they are granular cytoplasm, right? So can you see this? How to differentiate the lymphoblast from the myeloblast? On the cytoplasmic granule and on the basis of the nucleoli. No granule, no nucleoli, lymphoblast. Clear? Granule, prominent nucleoli is the myeloblast. Clear? So that is how first we will discriminate on the morphology. This is the lymphoblast because no granule, no nucleoli. This is the myeloblast because they are having granule and the prominent nucleoli. Clear? Now the next thing is to do the cytochemical staining. Sometime when we have a confusion, we will be going for the cytochemical stains also. So which cytochemical stain we are going to use for the lymphoblast? Lymphoblasts are which stain positive? Yes, they are positive for PAS. PAS positive. PAS stain is used for glycogen. And these blast cells are rich in the glycogen. And here, glycogen positive will be giving a red color. Okay? So when they are glycogen positive, they will be giving red color. Fine. What is the cytochemical stain for the myeloblast? Myeloblast, what is the cytochemical stain? Myeloperoxidase. MPO is myeloperoxidase. Remember, this is the short form of the myeloperoxidase. So myeloperoxidase will be positive. Right? Myeloperoxidase will be positive. So that is the important thing you have to remember. Myeloperoxidase will be positive in case of the myeloblastic lineages. Right? In case of the myeloblastic lineages, myeloperoxidase will be positive. Clear? Right? And remember, right? And remember here, this myeloperoxidase is the most specific as well as most sensitive stain for the myeloid lineages, myeloblasts. Clear? That was the question in the NEET PG 2017. Which of the following is the most specific and most sensitive stain for the myeloblast? Most sensitive, most specific stain for the myeloblast is the myeloperoxidase, right? There are other stains also which we can use. That is this is the number one. Other stain is the Sudan black B, which is not specific, right? So remember, this is the poor one, Sudan black B. So they are non-specific. Remember, these are non-specific stain. Now, what we have to understand that in the myeloid lineages, monocytes also come, right? And monocytes will be negative for both MPO and Sudan black B. Monocytes will be negative for, so I'm just going on to the next page. We were talking about the myeloblast in that continuity I'm telling you. Here, when you are going to see the monocytic lineages, monocytic lineages, they will be negative for MPO also, MPO negative and Sudan black B negative. Both will be negative, right? So what stain we should use for the monocytes? Monocytes are positive. Again, when we are talking about the erythroblast, what stain we should use for the monocytes? Monocytes are positive for non-specific esterase, NSE. This is positive for non-specific esterase, right? So monocytes are non-specific esterase positive, right? So now I understood non-specific esterase will be positive for the monocytes. These are the important things. So now I understand. Well, again, when we are talking about the erythroblasts, erythroblasts are positive, negative for all MPO negative, Sudan black B negative, and non-specific esterase is also negative. All negative. Then which stain we can use for erythroblast? Erythroblast is PAS positive. I understood. Erythroblast is negative for MPO negative, Sudan black B negative, non-specific esterase negative. Right? So which stain will be positive? PAS positive. So erythroblast is PAS positive. So now problem starts. Because lymphoblast and erythroblast both are PAS positive. How to discriminate now? I understood. How to discriminate now? They are also PAS positive. Erythroblast is also PAS positive. So how to discriminate? So here I will just show you. Right? So I'm just showing you a blast cell. Oh, sorry. See, this is the blast cell I had made, and let us assume that this is the nucleus of the blast cell. This side I will be showing you lymphoblast, and this side I am showing you the erythroblast, right? So when we are going to see the PAS staining, the red color, right? So in lymphoblast, this will be the dot-like or block-like staining, right? So lymphoblast will be having dot-like or block-like positivity. So dot-like or block-like positivity, which you can see in red color. So these are all red color PAS positive. Whereas in erythroblast, you will see there is a diffuse staining, diffuse PAS positivity. So I understood how to discriminate lymphoblast and erythroblast by PAS staining on the basis of pattern of staining. So answer will be on the basis of pattern of staining. Pattern, dot-like, block-like pattern, lymphoblast, diffuse pattern, erythroblast. So now understood, that is how question will be asked in your exam. Lymphoblast and erythroblast on PAS staining are distinguished by pattern of staining. Diffuse pattern, erythroblast, dot-like, block-like pattern is the lymphoblast. Right? Clear? Everybody understood this point? So now understood acute leukemia approach. What should be our approach? I repeat, acute leukemia patient comes, do the bone marrow aspirate and the biopsy. Check the blast count. More than 20% is the classified WHO acute leukemia case. Now you have to discriminate lymphoblast versus myeloblast. Lymphoblast will be having no granule, no nucleoli. Myeloblast will be having prominent nucleoli and granule. Right? Then you will use cytochemical stain. Lymphoblast PAS positive, myeloblast MPO positive. Sudan black B positive. But they are not positive in case of the monocyte. Right? So monocytes are negative for the MPO and Sudan black B. So for monocytes we are going to use the non-specific esterase. Right? Non-specific esterase. Right? Erythroblast is another challenge where all three will be negative. MPO negative, Sudan black B negative, non-specific esterase negative. All are negative. Right? So how we will find the erythroblast? By PAS staining. So the problem arises because PAS staining is positive for lympho and erythroblast both. So you have to analyze them. On the analysis, when you are seeing dot-like or block-like positivity, patchy, regular positivity is lymphoblast. Diffuse positivity is erythroblast. Right? So clear? Now you understood. Now I will show you some of the images which was asked in the AIMS exam 2018. Right? 9-year-old boy. 9-year-old boy. Leukemia patient. What is your diagnosis? And here I will tell you one thing. Whenever you are going in the exam, always remember, never decide by seeing one blast cell, that is this lymphoblast or myeloblast. Always look for the rule of 5, rule of observation and conversion. That will help you a lot. Right? Now, look at this cell and tell me what you are able to appreciate when you are going to see the cytoplasm. Can you see the cytoplasm of all these things? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Quickly. Now you are seeing this cytoplasm, this cytoplasm, this cytoplasm. Can you see the cytoplasm? No granule. Very good. Very nice. No granules are seen. So there are no granules in the cytoplasm. No granules in the cytoplasm. Now look at the nucleus. Look at the nucleus. In the nucleus, are you able to see anything? Are you able to see? No. No nucleoli. No nucleoli. So what is this? No granule, no nucleoli. What is this? This is the lymphoblast. So which leukemia it can be? ALL. So that was a simple AIMS question. 9-year-old boy, identify this leukemia. So now you've got it. It's a acute lymphoblastic leukemia because of two important things. Number 1, no granule. Number 2, no nucleoli. Right. So now you understood the significance of these morphology in your exam also. Right. Now you will see this. This is the past staining. This is the past staining. Can you tell me? Past positive. What is this past positive? Lymphoblast or erythroblast? Block-like. Very good. So now you can see this is the block-like or dot-like positivity. So here you are seeing lymphoblast, right? So it is lymphoblast, block-like, dot-like at regular interval. You can see regular interval, block-like, dot-like positivity is present. So this is the past positive lymphoblast, right? Now tell me, what are these cells? What are these cells? What are these cells? Very good. So can you see this? That is why I always say that. Always look for the maximum cell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you are looking at this cell, you may get confused. But still, you can see the granule here. You can see the granule here. Can you notice there is something here? There is a granule. So much of granule. Can you notice there is so much of granule and something granule? So this is a granular cytoplasm. Granular cytoplasm. And again, you can notice there is a prominent nucleoli. Right? Prominent nucleoli. So granular cytoplasm, prominent nucleoli. So this is the myeloblastic cells. Right? This is the myeloblastic cells. So this is the AML. Done. Fine. So here you can observe what are these cells? What are these rod-like structure? These are the over rods, right? So these are the over rods also. So whenever you find over rods are the definitive evidence of the myeloid differentiation. Even if you are seeing no granule, remember, I'll just tell you one thing. I have seen their slides are like this only, right? I have seen many slides in the textbooks also. I have many other textbooks I have seen. So examiner can throw those questions in your exam, right? In those questions, I'll just tell you what you are going to see, that there will be no granule in the cytoplasm, there will be no nucleoli in the cytoplasm, in the nucleus, but you are seeing the over rods, right? If you find this, tell me what will be your diagnosis. I understood. So why I said these are the over rod is the most definitive marker of the myeloid differentiation, because you may not find granule, you may not find nucleoli, but once you find over rod, that's all. It can never be lymphoid. It will be myeloid only. Clear? So now I understood. Fine. So in this case, when you are seeing the over rods are maximum, or you can see that most commonly seen in, or maximum in the quantity in which of the following leukemia? So it is seen in the AML. Very good. AML M3. So AML M3 will be having maximum over rod. Clear? So AML M3 will be having maximum over rod. That is the important point we have to remember. No, AML I'm teaching because it is acute leukemia. AML is a myeloid or lymphoid. It will be myeloid only. Clear? Seen in or maximum in the quantity in which of the following leukemia? M3 will be having maximum over rod. That is the important point we have to remember. No, AML I'm teaching because it is acute leukemia. AML is a myeloid neoplasm. They are not in the NHL. These are in the myeloproliferative myeloid leukemias. They are not in the NHL. Not in the NHL. NHL you are using ALL only. CML, chronic myeloproliferative disorder. Right? AML, acute myeloproliferative disorder. That's all. Myeloperoxidase staining, when you are going to see, can you see how you are going to identify, because these things are not given in your Robbins, and examiner will be asking you. Myeloid will be blue or black color. So remember, bluish or black granule in the cytoplasm. So this is the myeloperoxidase state. So you can see bluish or black granule. So this is the myeloperoxidase. Now you can see this one. Sudan black V. So already you remember Sudan black V in the oil red O stain when I was telling you, they will be black in color. So how it will be on the peripheral smear? They will be looking black at V. So already you remember Sudan black V in the oil red O stain when I was telling you, they will be black in color. So how it will be on the peripheral smear? They will be looking black and granular. Can you see this cell? Black and granular cytoplasm. Black and granular is the Sudan black V staining, right? Because of the lipids, right? Because of the lipids, they will be giving this appearance. Non-specific esterase, that is also very, very important. Non-specific esterase is also called as alpha-naphthyl butyrate. So need not remember this one, please, right? Don't focus on this one. Focus on this name itself. That's enough. Non-specific esterase. What will be the color of the cytoplasm? Can you see these are all very bright, beautiful red color? Right? Sometimes, see, I have taken red color, but sometimes it will be looking red brown, as you can see here. Red brown, red brown. So red brown appearance is the non-specific esterase. That will be for monocytic cell. So non-specific esterase. Come to this one. What is this staining? Can you tell me? This is the past staining. And after seeing this past stain, can you tell me what is your diagnosis? Very good, very good. Can you see this is the diffuse past positive? So this is the diffuse past positivity, which you will see in the erythroblastic lineages. AML M6. Right? Fine. So these are the important points about the acute leukemia, where I wanted to discuss both acute leukemia together, ALL and AML. Right. Now I am going to tell you about the acute leukemia. Now I am coming with the proper discussion of the acute leukemia. So ALL or acute leukemia is the most common cancer of childhood. Most common cancer of the childhood is ALL. It's a liquid cancer. Now look at the language the examiner is going to use. What is the most common solid cancer of the childhood? Solid cancer of the childhood. Then what will be your answer? Most common cancer of the childhood is liquid cancer, right? Now most common cancer of the solid cancer, yes, very good. Brain tumor, glioma, brain tumor. Then what will be your answer? Most common. Now look at the language the examiner is going to use. What is the most common solid cancer of the childhood? Solid cancer of the childhood. Then what will be your answer? Most common cancer of the childhood is liquid cancer, right? Now most common cancer of the solid cancer, yes, very good. Brain tumor of the childhood. Solid cancer of the childhood. Then what will be your answer? Most common cancer of the childhood is liquid cancer, right? Now, most common cancer of the solid cancer, yes, very good. Brain tumor, glioma. Brain tumor or glioma. Right. So now I understood. So this is the ALL. So basically, ALL is a pediatric leukemia. Basically, ALL is a pediatric leukemia. Right. Pediatric age group will be commonly affected. Right. And ALL can be associated with the etiology-wise radiation exposure. Right. They are also associated all, right? Now it is now America, China, these are not very eager to have a nuclear bomb fight, right? Pakistan. But you know what is the hazard? Hazard is here. After the radiation exposure, after several generations, you will be seeing the leukemia cases or myelodysplastic syndrome cases. So that is why war is never, a good decision. That is why our government is peaceful, right? But people will be making so much of why Modi is not fighting, or why government is not bombing immediately on the Pakistan. It's not like that, right? So remember, the radiation exposure is a very, very great risk, right? So radiation exposure number one. Second thing is another important thing which you should know is the chemical exposure. Chemical exposure. Examiner will be asking you the karyotypic region, chromosomal disorders. Right, chromosomal disorders are also associated. So in this chromosomal disorder, just remember three important names: Down syndrome, Turner syndrome, and Klinefelter syndrome. So these are the three important syndromes which are associated with the etiology of the ALL. Right. Now come to the presentation of the ALL. What I wanted to tell you, the presentation of the ALL, that organ involvement, right? Organ involvement like CNS, mediastinum, or testis. CNS, mediastinum, or testicular involvement is common. So CNS, mediastinum, testicular involvement is commonly seen in the ALL. Because see this, I wanted to tell you two things. It will be seen in the ALL also. It will be seen in the AML also. Both will be having involvement of all these organs. Right, both will be associated with the organ involvement. Right, who is more commonly associated? Question is, who is more commonly associated? So this mnemonic will be helping you. All is common in all. You understood? All is common in all. What are these all? These are all these organs, and this all is ALL when you are comparing versus AML. Clear? So ALL is more commonly associated with CNS involvement, mediastinal involvement, and testicular involvement. Right. Now my question is, when you are seeing the involvement of all these organs, so tell me what will be the prognosis? Good or bad? All these are vital organs, right? Brain, mediastinum, where lung will be there, testis, where fertility will be gone. So prognosis will be bad only. Right? So now understood ALL and AML. When examiner is asking, remember ALL will be commonly affected with these organ involvement, and when these organs are involved, prognosis will be bad. Clear? So prognosis will be bad in this. Right. Now, this is the latest WHO classification which was given in 2016. Right? Why I have taken this? Because there was a question from here in the previous year May AIMS exam. Right? According to the latest revision of the WHO 2016, right, which is not the provisional entity, like that examiner had asked. So provisional entity का मतलब क्या होता है? Provisional entity means in 2016 they are considering that in the next session, maybe in the 2021 or this year itself, they will be keeping them properly into the B type of ALL. It is not properly into the B type of ALL. It is provisionally kept here, not the permanently. Now you understood? After the confirmation, they will be keeping them into the B type of ALL or T type of ALL. So that will take time, right? So that is the temporary. That is what it means, right? So B cell type leukemia or T cell type of leukemia. So there are two type of ALL. Now you can see there are two type of ALL: B ALL or T ALL, which is more common. So remember, B ALL is 80% most common. T ALL is less common, only seen in 20% of the cases, right? So this is the number one thing. Now, what are the B cell types?